States, the extent to which we are contending with catastrophic wildfires, deadly extreme heat in the summers and longer seasons, floods, superstorms, the loss of our homes, the loss of our insurance, the loss of livelihoods, whole communities, people's lives is coming at an extraordinary cost. In 2025 alone, we had 23 climate disasters that collectively cost over $115 billion in the United States. And so it's really hard to make any case that anyone benefits from an abandonment of efforts to stabilize the climate and stop the exponential rise of suffering and financial burdens too.
Okay. Abigail Dillon, thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to cross to Bangladesh now, and some breaking news there. After yesterday's election, we now have some results. And we're going to take you straight to Dhaka and our correspondent, Azadeh Moshiri, who is there for us. Azadeh.
The Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or the BNP, has been declared the winner here in Bangladesh. They have won the 151 seats that they needed to declare a majority. Jamaat-e-Islami, an Islamist party, has come in second with 46 seats. There were 300 total. Now, here in Dhaka, many people would have already thought of the BNP as the winner, forming the next government if they woke up to these papers. The Dhaka Tribune had already projected their win. BNP wins absolute majority was the headline there. Now, this is a huge reversal in fortunes for the BNP and for Tariq Rahman, the leader of the party in particular. He was in self-imposed exile for 17 years. His party boycotted the last elections. Thousands of their members and their supporters were jailed under Sheikh Hasina's increasingly authoritarian rule. Now, we have seen them on the campaign trail working hard for every single vote. Again, remember, this is the first election since the student uprising overthrew the Awami League government. And this was an election where people were telling us, the people we spoke to, that it's the first time they felt they didn't really know the outcome of this election. And now Tariq Rahman has worked hard to win those votes. We spoke to him moments before he cast his vote about what a reversal this has been for him. Take a listen.
Very confident, alhamdulillah.
How long have you waited for this day? BBC News, Tariq Rahman, how long have you waited for this day?
For more than decades. Not only me, the whole nation was waiting for this for more than decades.
And how are you feeling today?
Very confident.
What does it mean to you to be here today?
Let me go and cast my vote, then I'll come back and talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, with me is Professor Tawfiq Haq from North South University here in Dhaka. I think a lot of people will want to know a lot more about the BNP. They've promised to be a party of change after the uprising, but they have a long history here in Bangladesh. This is not a new party.
Exactly. So BNP is one of the oldest parties in Bangladesh. They have been in power in last 55 years several times. And this is not the first time that they are coming with a clear victory. Even in the recent past, if you look into 2001, they had a two-third majority. And we still don't know officially, but probably this time also they might have a very good seat contribution. So it's an old party with a new leadership. Tariq Zia is a new leader. He was not in power, he was not in any government official position during also 2001 BNP government. So there is a hope and expectation, but also as like any traditional party, BNP also had failures and successes. So people are waiting, but they are very hopeful because the overwhelming support that BNP got in yesterday's election, it shows that from rural to urban area, everywhere people had or have a new kind of expectation and hope that BNP will make change.
But when you're talking about failures, you are partly talking about their tenure in government previously. That's something that Tariq Rahman has referred to on the campaign trail himself. When the first thing that so many voters have told us about is that they want an end to corruption. Could you tell us about some of the allegations against the BNP government when they were in power?
Especially in 2001 to 2006 government, the corruption allegations were huge, and according to Transparency International data, consecutively for 3 years, Bangladesh was the most corrupt country in the world during that tenure. So it is a huge concern, and even there were allegations of corruption against Tariq Zia, and the cases were there. Even now they have been dropped, the cases have been dropped. So people's expectation will be that how BNP will tackle corruption and also extortion. So that's one major issue that you will be listening in the streets.
Professor Haq, thank you for that. Now this is an election that Muhammad Yunus, the interim leader, will see as the culmination of his promise. Free and fair elections. But not everyone would agree that that's what happened here in the last few days because the Awami League party, the party of the former government, was banned from contesting. We travelled to meet an Awami League politician in hiding, and he kept his identity anonymous for his own safety, he told us. Take a listen to what he said about that.
I will not say that BNP people were not arrested. They were arrested. But no influential BNP leader was arrested to prevent them from participating in elections. By excluding the Awami League, a free and fair election is no way possible.
Now, keep in mind that there are more results to come. Having said that, the BNP has already told the BBC that it's confident to form the next government. It has also announced that there won't be any major celebrations. There won't be any meetings to mark this. You might notice that it's very quiet here where I am at the BNP party headquarters. Instead, they've announced that there will be nationwide prayers across the country in various mosques in honour of his late mother, Khaleda Zia, also a former Prime Minister of this country, as well as for the countrymen. A reminder that this election was only possible because of the student uprising 18 months ago.
Azadeh Moshiri, thank you very much indeed. And of course, we will have more on that election that's been held in Bangladesh. And you can follow plenty more on the live page via the BBC News website. Now, 2 men will be sentenced today for planning a gun attack on a mass gathering of Jewish people in Manchester. Preston Crown Court heard that 38-year-old Walid Saudi and 52-year-old Ammar Hussein had a visceral dislike of Jewish people and wanted to cause untold harm. They were discovered after their plot was infiltrated by an undercover officer. Saudi's brother, Bilal, will also be sentenced for knowing about the plans but not telling the authorities. Here's our North of England reporter, Rowan Bridge.
After months of surveillance, Walid Sadawi's arrest was over in a few frantic seconds. The car he's running from holds assault rifles and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. They were among the weapons he and Ammar Hussein were planning to use to target one of the largest Jewish communities in the country.
If they'd been able to achieve what they were aiming to achieve with the weapons that they were seeking to take possession of, this could have potentially been the most devastating and deadly terrorist attack in UK history.
Caught in surveillance photos, both men were committed followers of the Islamic State group. They had a visceral hatred of Jewish people.
Their plans involved a third man who is known in court as Farouk. Sadawi had met him through Facebook. But rather than being a committed jihadist, he was an undercover operative. It meant the authorities knew exactly what was going on.
Ammar Hussein filmed himself when the men visited Dover. They were caught on surveillance footage looking at how weapons could be smuggled through the port. And they scouted out possible targets in the heavily Jewish areas of North Manchester, schools, synagogues and shops.
And together we will prevail.
But their main aim was to attack an anti-Semitism march. A previous gathering in the city had attracted 6,500 people.
The ideology of jihad is like the ideology of Nazism. They want to kill Jews. They don't care who those Jews are. They don't stop to ask these Jews what their opinion is of Israel or of whether they support Manchester United or anything. They want to kill Jews.
Bilal, need you to listen to me now, yeah? I am listening. I'm arresting you on suspicion of being a terrorist.
Walid Sadawi's brother Bilal was convicted of knowing about the plans but not telling the authorities. While this plot was never credible due to early intervention, police were clear the trial showed the men's hatred of Jewish people knew no bounds. Rowan Bridge, BBC News, Manchester.
Well, still to come here on BBC News, we're heading to the glitz and glamour of the Berlin Film Festival. It opened last night with the premiere of the Afghan political rom-com No Good Men. It's set in Kabul, just before the Taliban takeover, and Tom Brooke will have more for us shortly. Until then, we're around the world and across the UK. This is BBC News. The FBI is increasing the reward for any information in the case of the missing 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, the mother of the US journalist Savannah Guthrie. It's now nearly 2 weeks since she was taken from her home in Tucson. Officials have also released new details on a possible suspect. Our correspondent, David Willis, is following the investigation from Arizona.
Detectives here have issued the first physical description of the man they're looking for in connection with Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. They've also doubled the reward for his capture from $50,000 to $100,000. The release of those harrowing video images a couple of days ago showing this masked man on Nancy Guthrie's doorstep just minutes before she disappeared led to thousands of calls from members of the public to law enforcement tip lines, and hundreds of FBI agents are now looking to arrange those tips in order of priority before chasing the most significant leads down. Despite the fact that those video images show a masked man, detectives still believe that it's possible for somebody out there to identify this person based on his body language and the way that he moves. Now, they've also widened their appeal for information to signs on motorway side billboards. They really believe now that somebody out there has information which could help them crack this case.
And that was David Willis. New satellite images appear to show Iran has been fortifying an underground complex near one of its key nuclear facilities. This photo that was taken in September shows the site located around 2 kilometers from the Natanz facility that was bombed back in June by the United States. Now you can clearly see piles of dirt and stones around the entrance to a tunnel. Now if we look at this picture, this was taken only a few days ago, and you can see fresh concrete structures right at the entrance. It's not known what's inside the complex because it has never actually been accessed by international inspectors. Well, our security correspondent, Frank Gardner, has been speaking to Rafael Grossi. He's the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency. And he asked him about the state of negotiations over Iran's nuclear program.
President Trump has made it very clear in statements that he said, I hope we can get a deal, but if we can't, we'll see what happens. And there's talk of a second armada, as he puts it, or a second carrier strike group coming up. Clearly, there's a lot of military pressure there. I don't think he necessarily wants to hit Iran, but do you have a view on what could happen if America hits Iran again if this deal doesn't happen?
Well, I think it's very important that the President of the United States is saying that he wants a deal. That's tremendously important. It has a powerful meaning that he prefers that to a second wave of attacks. I'm not in the military sphere, but I think it is clear for all observers, those who have been following this conflict very, very closely, as I have and others have, is that a second episode of this kind would be much wider and with more consequences, military speaking and otherwise, than the first one. So I think we all want, not only for that, but just because, you know, I'm a diplomat, I'm a head of an organization that is there for peace, among other things. So we want to spare us, the Iranian population and others who could be affected, this possibility. But for that, we really need a deal. This is needed, and perhaps this moment, I wouldn't say it's the most decisive, but it's very close to that, because my sense, talking to all those involved, is that we have a window of opportunity, but windows of opportunity have a tendency to shut themselves quite abruptly and brusquely. So I think we need to seize the moment.
Rafael Grossi there. Now, 2 Mexican Navy ships carrying humanitarian aid docked in Cuba on Thursday. As a US blockade deepens the island's energy crisis, the UK, Australia, Canada and Sweden are amongst countries advising against all but essential travel to the island. Cuba has warned international airlines that they will not be able to refuel on the island due to the US-imposed oil blockade. Our correspondent, Will Grant, has an update.
2 tankers worth of humanitarian aid has now made it to Cuba, sent from the government of Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. They included more than 800 tons of basic goods, powdered milk, rice and beans, items desperately needed in this humanitarian crisis, worsening humanitarian crisis in Cuba. We understand they have now been unloaded on the island, and the tankers are now making their way back to Mexico, where it is expected they will simply be reloaded and sent back again. The statement from the Sheinbaum government said that with these actions, the Mexican government affirms its humanist principles and the solidarity which guides its international cooperation between peoples. Particularly, it said, those in situations of emergency and vulnerability, adding that Mexico and Cuba are brother nations. However, what wasn't on those tankers is what Cuba most needs in this moment, which is crude oil. Simply, Washington has put conditions on any nation that tries to replace the crude oil that was coming from Venezuela, saying it will impose sanctions, will impose tariffs on any nation that sends oil to Cuba. Currently, the situation is getting worse and worse. Airlines cannot refuel their flights on the island, causing some to simply suspend their services, which will have an impact on tourism. What we're seeing in Mexico is steps by civil society, those that are sympathetic to the Cuban Revolution, who are organizing this weekend drives of donations to sort of help the situation on the island. But it is a drop in the ocean in terms of what is needed, and what is crucially needed is what's not getting there, which is fuel.
Will Grant. Now to the world of cinema, and the first major European film event of the year, the Berlin Film Festival, opened last night with stars and filmmakers walking the red carpet for the premiere of No Good Men, a political romantic comedy set in Kabul shortly before the Taliban takeover. Well, Talking Movies presenter Tom Brook was there and sent this update.
Well, the Berlin Film Festival is actually a huge event. Last year, it sold more than 340,000 tickets to people here in Berlin. This year, there are 200 feature films being shown. It's serious cinema that's on view here. There are films that are serious documentaries. There's also some escapism, sci-fi and fantasy. But it's a film festival that does really treat cinema very seriously. And a few moments ago, I spoke to Trisha Tuttle, the festival director, and I asked her, did she think that this year's mix of films in the festival could help us understand what's going on in the world at this time of great tumult?
I think cinema always has played that role. Not all cinema, sometimes you just want pure escapism, but I think a lot of audiences want to see the world reflected in cinema. They want to be touched, they want to be moved. They want to step into someone else's shoes, and the very act of stepping into someone else's life can be quite transformative. I know I've been touched and changed by that.
The festival opened with a film called No Good Men, which is set in Afghanistan just before the Taliban returned to power. And it follows a camerawoman who works at the Kabul TV station. It's partly a romance, it's partly exploring differences and tensions between men and women in Afghanistan, but more than anything else, it's a film that shows, in a way, the fragility of democracy, and that's certainly something that resonates in the world right now.
And that was Tom Brooke, and of course plenty more on all the stories that we have been covering here on BBC News on the BBC News website. I will be back shortly with the business news and more on that reversal in carbon emissions by the US President. I'll see you shortly.